Hello and welcome. I'm Lyndon Walker and I hope you enjoy the video. Howdy everyone, I hope you all are doing well. So here's my sketch. I hadn't really intended for this piece to be a full painting, but I ended up really liking it, so here we are. It's been a minute since I did a pile of people paintings, so I thought it was about time. Usually what I do with pieces like this is make the sketch layer transparent and layer my colors underneath it to see if I like them before polishing, but I didn't feel like doing that. Today, I wanted to work more on the confidence behind my color choice as well as streamlining my process a bit more. I find that when I layer my colors, I spend a lot of time just smoothing everything out with the same color, and it gets tedious after a while. So as a way to combat this, I just went for it and colored right over the sketch while still keeping another layer with just the sketch on it to reference if need be. In any case, I had a very strong idea for the colors I wanted to use in this piece, so why not just take out the middleman? Now, I always recommend doing color studies, but experimenting can also be fun and leave you with some fun surprises. Speaking of fun surprises, I just remembered I got a jury summons the other day. The court date isn't for a while, so it's no big deal right now. This will actually be my third time being summoned for jury duty, yet I have never actually sat in on a court case. All of the other cases I've been scheduled for actually ended up being settled outside of court, so I didn't have to go appear, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see if this one actually happens. Something else exciting happened. At least exciting for me because I'm an old fart. I finally made a Spotify account. Now, don't worry, I still use my radio, it just depends on the vibe I'm going for that day. But now I can torment my friends with evil playlists. However, to be fair, the first playlist I made was just a place to dump all of the songs I stimmed to. And I noticed something really funny. Pretty much every single song on that playlist has a strong driving beat, which I guess is just what my brain craves. I just think it's a little funny and kind of neat at the same time. The next playlist I titled Songs That Make Me Want to Throw Bricks, which is very self-explanatory in and of itself. As far as fun times go, I've also been finishing up a lot of my embroidery and sewing projects. One in particular I think you'll really like. I got one of those plush chick peeps like the marshmallow candy from CVS on sale. It was made to look like ones that were dipped in chocolate and covered with sprinkles. It was really cute, however, to be honest, I thought the colors of the sprinkles was really ugly. My apologies to Big Peep. So I chose out my own colors and embroidered some new sprinkles. I also took the liberty of giving them some eyelashes and angry eyebrows, and have since named them Spinkles. Also, per our usual update, I enjoyed many nice beverages over the course of this painting, including but not limited to my usual Thai tea, Earl Grey, which I've been craving a lot recently, ginger, matcha, as well as some smoothies, and this funky little kiwi drink I had the other day. And don't worry, I do drink plenty of water in between. I've also listened to plenty of music, fully utilizing my shiny new Spotify account. I've listened to a lot, but at the moment I recall most prevalently listening to a lot of Starset, Young Guns, some 3 Days Grace, and so on. I've also picked back up on listening to some podcasts again, mostly mysteries and horror-based ones such as Fairy and the Sheridan tapes, which I've been enjoying a lot. Also, listening to longer form media helps me track how long I've been working, which is very helpful, I think. In the past, before I learned how to regulate more, I would get so focused on my work that I would work until I started to lose muscle control in my hands from forgetting to eat, which, needless to say, I don't recommend that. But now I generally try and work for about an hour or an hour and a half, then get up to stretch and get a snack and all of that. So if I'm listening to a podcast with 30-minute episodes, then I can just listen to 2 or 3, and then I know I need to get up and move. I also do that with musical albums. And I did that quite a bit with this piece. When I finally looked back at the footage, I found that this painting took me roughly around 8 hours, which for its size and complexity makes sense, but it was also a good reminder that things take time. The other day I had some free time and it was really lovely out, so I decided to go and do some open air paintings. There's a page in particular that I have in my painting sketchbook that I had taped off specifically for this purpose, with 4 landscape slots for 4 different studies, and I had just 1 slot left, so I figured it was about time I go out and finish it. I remember the first painting I did on that page was at the Alan Cox Reservation. I had gone with a friend of mine, and while there we ended up finding a geocache and a dead horseshoe crab. It smelled truly awful, but it was really neat all the same. The next painting was at Leslie Retreats Park. It was a nice sunny day with a lot of ducks. That painting was followed by a study at Rice Beach. It had been cold and snowy that day, and I was only able to lay down some base colors to refine later because my paint kept freezing. I still really like how it turned out though. Then, lastly, I ended up going to the Green Lawn Cemetery and painting a little bridge by a fountain. I saw a lot of turtles, which was really fun. I think one of them was actually a snapping turtle. The others were likely sliders of some fashion. I was fortunate enough to find a nice little spot in the grass under the shade of some trees to do my painting. Oh, by the way, if you want to see some of those, I made a little video over on my TikTok. Anyway, something I realized a few days after that, which I found quite odd, was that the ponds were completely lacking in frogs. Or I just didn't see any, which is still kind of odd. But as a consolation prize, I did find an egret feather. It was really soft, and I put it on my little pseudo altar with my collection of other feathers. I think I might want to put it in a collage sometime, but I also just like having it. Something will happen. Anyway, I'm very happy to have finally finished that page in my book. I have this thing where if I'm working on something on one page, I don't like to move on to the next page until I'm finished with what I'm doing on the one prior. So now I can finally move on to my next traditional painting. I have 2 sketches that I want to use. I'll likely be bringing both to a finish, but I have to decide which to do first. Perhaps I may make a video of them, but we'll see. Having a video or a camera going in my face while I'm trying to paint traditionally is admittedly a little annoying, but maybe that's just me, or I just need to reposition my camera. Probably the second one, but who's to say? I'll figure something out. If anything, the main thing I need to remember to do is go over the edges of my tape with white paint so it won't bleed under the tape. I always forget, and then I need to clean up the edges afterwards, especially if I end up doing one of those next paintings on my other slab of masonite, which can be a real pain in the butt to clean up, but it's so nice to work on. Though I don't often have an issue with my paper buckling, it's still swell to have a nice, firm, smooth surface to work on. Although I personally like to skip sanding down my coats of gesso to keep the faint brush strokes from the application process. I feel as though it just adds a little bit more dimension, especially since my traditional pieces often get mistaken for digital pieces. Which isn't a bad thing. I don't mean that as a flex, but I just typically keep my paint application very smooth and in and of itself. But sometimes you just crave that extra crunch. That's in part why I often like to bring a lot of my traditional sketches digitally to futz around with. If it works, it works. Oh, another really nice life update. My roomies and I got a bird feeder for our living room window. It's technically a plant shelf, but we wanted something big enough to accommodate doves, and there's often a pair that will nest in our gutters. Anyway, the feeder we got is just a clear acrylic that suction cups to the outside of the window. When we first installed it though, the birds would get spooked by our movements inside, so we got a shield to put up in the window so they couldn't see us. At first, we mostly got a bunch of finches and sparrows, which was neat. However, if there ever got to be more than 2 or 3 on the feeder at once, they would start slapping each other off, so we may have inadvertently started a turf war, but oh well. Not long after, though, we started getting blue jays and cardinals, which was awesome. I'll have to check the yard down below to see if they dropped any feathers. We also got some cowbirds and finally some doves, and actually even a grackle. There's one dove in particular who comes by who we've named Girl Queen. She will only let other female birds eat with her while slapping the ever-living hell out of any other male bird that shows up. And every time she comes to the feeder, she doesn't really slow down. She just kind of slams into the window and flaps around until she's situated on the feeder. She will do this repeatedly between eating breaks, by the way. One time, she actually took a nap in the feeder, which was really cute. She also hates the grackle, whom I have named Crackle. Crackle the Grackle. He has bright yellow eyes and likes to watch the finches and sparrows fight each other. Something I need to do is look up what food goldfinches eat, because I'd really love to attract some of those. They're so cute and a more uncommon bird to see in this area, though I did see one darting around the cemetery after I had finished painting the other day. That reminds me, I have to check if that one monument is still infested with bees. They can live there, I just want to know if I should be more afraid outside of my usual baseline of fear. Lately, I've been trying to be nice to myself by going out on more walks. I go on walks quite often actually, but usually longer ones, so if I don't have the energy for a big walk, I'll either stay inside or go out anyway and wear myself out. So instead, I just do little loops around the block that have been really nice for me. Oftentimes, I'll give myself a little destination like a coffee shop or something, so I'll have a goal as opposed to walking in circles. And then I'll even have a little treat sometimes. It's also been easier with the nicer weather. Speaking of little treats, I actually just got myself some concert tickets for a band I really like. Palais Royale, if you're interested. I was supposed to see them like 2 years ago, but the world happened, so when they opened up for pre-sale, I decided to jump on it because I didn't know when they'd be in the area next. I also have to put a little money to the side because I know I'll want to get some merch. Specifically, I hope they have some pins. I really like pins. Let's see, aside from that treat for myself, I made the mistake of going to Walgreens the other day after work. I wanted to look and see what Squishmallows they had, and yes, I am a Squishmallow person. They had some really cute ones. I was tempted by a little watermelon, and there was also a hermit crab, but what really got me and what I actually ended up getting was Shoney, or maybe it's pronounced Shawnee, I'm not sure, but they're a dodo bird. He just had the blankest, silliest eyes I'd ever seen on a Squishmallow, and you all know how much I love birds, so I had to get him. And a friend of mine the other day also ended up getting me a boba drink one named Birgit, who I call Ergit, who I love very much, and since you all know I love boba, so it just worked out perfectly. I'm hoping to spot the stingray one sometime. They're one of my favorite sea creatures. I actually have a plushie of a cownose ray I got in Florida just over about 10 years ago now. Their name is Pancake, which reminds me I have one last blueberry waffle in the freezer. Excellent. Anywho, I found while painting this piece, since there's so much of it, that I really like rendering grass. I never really thought about it before, but now that I've started getting a solid feel for it, I really enjoy playing with its forms alongside other shrubberies. Having done a lot of background art myself, I feel like that kind of makes sense, but it just flew under my radar. I suppose because grass isn't usually at the forefront of my thoughts throughout the day. However, if you do think about grass on the daily basis, how are you doing? In any case, I also need to remember to find some neat plants and flowers for my journal. I have this one book that I use to document plants that I've pressed, and I haven't done it recently. Perhaps I'll get around to it later today, but I try to find some really cool specimens. They also just make for good reference when you need them. I mean, Google is swell for finding stuff and photos are too, but I just really like being able to go off physical reference when I can. It's just hard to come by, especially a reference that sits still. A goal of mine someday is to find a ghost pipe. Now, a ghost pipe is a kind of parasitic plant that can be found around the bases of birch trees. And due to their parasitic nature of feeding off the roots of said birch trees, they do not photosynthesize, therefore they lack chlorophyll, the component that makes plants green. So in turn, they're usually completely white, though I believe some can also be pinky or purpley. I just think they're so cool, and they also kind of look a little bit like candy canes, which is a bonus, to me anyway. I really like candy canes. Anyway, it looks like we're starting to get towards the end here now. I hope you enjoyed either watching me paint or listening to me ramble, or both. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.